Ladies and gentlemen, bring it back down. We're going to hear about video games, and we're going to start with the cons. Please give them a round of applause.
Hi, my name is Samantha. I'm Bronte. And I'm Victoria. And we're going to be presenting on the cons of video games. Video games are very popular in the teen entertainment industry, and their popularity is continuing to rise. As it is happening, we need to be able to recognize the negative effects that cause harsh influences and ruin our body and mind. Our topic was, our situation was in recreational centers should include video games in their after-school activities. Our presentation will help them decide if they should or not.
Hi, I'm Jack, and this is my partner Jason, and we are presenting the pros of video games. This is Ralph Baer. Ralph was the inventor of the Magnavox Odyssey, the first home console video game. It was very popular, and most video games really started out in the late 60s, early 70s. And we've been asked to evaluate whether or not a community center should allow video games in their after-school computing and IT program. And we'll be evaluating it by decision-making, education, and pro-social behavior.
Nearly 45% of all Americans ages 12 to 17 play video games for more than 2 hours a day. There was a study done in Utah that showed that there's a direct correlation between the amount of people that are obese and the amount of people that play video games. In Utah, they have the second most amount of people that are obese in their state, and the second most amount of people that play video games in their state also. In the District of Columbia, they have the highest amount of people who are obese and the highest amount of people that play video games. The American Society of Nutrition hosted a study that showed males who play video games for an hour consumed more calories than the males who did not play video games for an hour. Also, when people play video games, they tend to not participate in physical activities because they're trying to play video games. Other physical consequences of video games are migraines, backaches, sleeping disturbances, and eating irregularities, and poor hygiene. There was a study done in 2004 Lancet that showed a kid with PlayStation thumb and a 9-year-old boy, and that is when the thumb gets blistered and when the thumb causes friction between the controller and the hand. Also, carpal tunnel syndrome is common in video gamers. It's when the main nerve in your forearm and your arm is cut down for a long period of time, and it can result in tendonitis and arthritis when you're older. With dermoscopy, dermatologists found point-like hemorrhages, which are small bleeds in the veins in the fingers, and oncolysis, which is like a broken nail, or people with hyperkeratosis, which is mostly found in people that play video games. A Finnish study in adolescents showed that when people play video games more than 2 hours, they complain of more anatomic site pains, which is like back pains. And in school children, when they play video games the night before they went to school, they complain more of back pain during the day because they sit in such a stiff position for so many hours. And all these symptoms were only present in people who play video games and not present in people who just watch TV.
Education is arguably one of the most important forms of development in anyone's life. This picture shows a woman using the Wii in their classroom to teach her kids. In a study done in the 2000s across many universities on the globe, such as Princeton University or the University of Geneva, it was shown that action video games increase the performance of attentional, perceptual, and cognitive skills. An example of this is in 2011, Israeli Air Force cadets used the game Space Fortress 2 to train their students to fly. It showed that the Israeli cadets that used this game showed a much better flight performance than people that did not use this game.
Okay, so another effect of video games are psychological repercussions. So the University of California did a study to show the correlation between GPA and video game users. They proved that people who played video games had an overall 4% lower GPA than those who didn't. Another study by the Denison University did another study that showed the correlation between writing scores and people who played video games. Although the writing scores of people who played video games didn't decrease, it didn't increase, unlike the people who didn't play the video games. Addiction is a big part of video games, and it's proven that 8.5% of kids ages 8 to 18 are addicted to video games. And addiction can cause to decrease of exposure to discipline, which can be bad later in their life, like with jobs and stuff like that. Addiction can also jeopardize social lives and stuff like that. Lastly, the Marshall Project did a study with a video of adults abusing a clown doll named Bobo. So they had one group of preschoolers watch the video, while they had another group of preschoolers not watch the video. When left in a room with Bobo, the kids who watched the video were more likely to abuse the doll than the ones who didn't watch the video. Although this is a video, not video game, it has the same correlation when it comes to violent video games.
Another positive aspect of playing video games is decision making. A study by Rochester University shows that 26% of players ages 18 to 25 have a faster capability of answering questions than players that play strategic video games versus action video games.
The final major negative effect of video games is increased violence and aggressive behavior in those who are active gamers. A 2014 study in the Journal of American Medical Association found that violent games had a common link with bad behavior in kids, long-term aggression, and those children were more likely to bully people around them. Many of the mass murders, such as Sandy Hook, the Colorado movie theater shooting, and the Norwegian political camp shooting, were all related to video games in one way or another. The first case was Adam Lanza, who was responsible for the Sandy Hook. He was a frequent player of violent first-person shooter games. James Holmes killed 24 in Aurora, Colorado, and according to his family members and acquaintances, he was addicted to violent games. Lastly, Anders Breivik is a Norwegian terrorist who killed 8 people associated with the government using a bomb and 69 participants of a summer camp in Norway. He directly used the game Call of Duty to turn to machine massacre. These are just 3 of about 14 mass murders in peaceful games.
People say that video games hinder social activity, but for instance, take a look at this picture. This is an actual professional League of Legends tournament, and more than 40,000 people come together in a stadium to watch this. People with this similar interest in this particular video game. Also, online, more than 27 million people actually watch this. So altogether, around 28 million people come together with a similar interest in order to meet new friends, socialize with peers, and also in a study done in the 2000s by the Department of Psychology at Iowa State University, it shows that pro-social games and people that play pro-social games have increased their way to help people in need and socialize with their peers around them.
Another study by the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association in 2009, showed that 68% of American households play or have video game consoles. This just goes to prove how many people are going to be interacting with other people through video games and use it as a media and a social resource.
As you can see, video games have had a huge detrimental effect on today's society. The cons clearly outweigh the pros with all of the violent, psychological, and physical repercussions. As for any recreational centers around the world who are thinking about installing video games, our suggestion is the following. Put in video games, but make sure that there is a physical aspect such as Wii or Xbox Connect, to decrease the physical repercussions. Next, they need to put a time limit on the amount of time played, so then there isn't any psychological repercussions. Lastly, they need to make sure that all of the games are E-rated, so there aren't any violent actions caused at the recreational centers.
In conclusion, through the educational benefits, the enhanced decision-making, and the pro-social benefits, we highly recommend that the community center put in video games in order to help students throughout their life.
Oh, okay. So I have a question for side, on side. You said people who play a lot of action games are like trying to carry out like more terrible things, but like myself, and I know a lot of people here play a lot of action / violent video games, and we're not gonna do anything like particularly. You know the thing, you're not gonna do anything illegal, but we might just be some exceptions or something like. What is the percentage of people who play these action games that go out and commit a violent crime?
We don't know the exact percentage, but it has been proven that people who play violent video games and action games have a 4% increase in aggression versus those who play strategic games and mind games and stuff like that. So although we don't know the exact percentage of people who would go out and commit crimes, the people in this room who play more action games are more likely to commit crimes than those who play more mind games.
Okay.
Alright, so this is a question for both of y'all, either of you came across it, but more specifically cons. I know you were saying that, like you said, the action games sort of like generate a violent behavior, a violent attitude towards others and such. But did you ever like find the studies of other media, like doing the same thing, like if a 5-year-old kid watched Random or whatever, and then did they ever have anything like that?
Well, the psychological effects are the same for like anything violent. You probably will tend to do something violent, but playing it increases it a little more because it actually puts yourself in the situation.
Because a bunch of cases actually prove that like the people, like for example, something that Victoria said is one of the people actually used a violent video game to train for their actual shooting. And then something I came across was in Louisiana where this kid was playing a game and then he killed his grandmother, like the same way that he was killing people in the game. So.
My question is for the pros. The cons, obviously, in their conclusion, didn't say that there shouldn't be video games. They just said there should be stipulations on them. Do you agree with what they said, that there should be, as long as the games are rated E and there's some time limits? Or are you like, video games for everyone, Call of Duty, kindergarten up?
Well, what I think that, yes, there should be limits on them, as I wrote in my actual paper, that I'm for it, but there should be sorts of limits, such as ratings, time, stuff like that.
So when it comes to, actually, both sides actually kind of agree there in the middle. Is that what kind of the consensus is?
Yeah, all right. So again, there's been pros and cons. I know that there's a whole bunch of statistically, there's a whole bunch of violent behavior behind video games and such. But did you ever find anything with positive reactions towards video games, like people who were more positive and like or proactive to make a change?
Well, there was a study showing that it's helped people relieve stress, so that made them happier. But other than that, I don't think there was really anything major about making someone happier or less.
It's all based off of the game, as we've been saying. Violent video games will cause more violent action, but if you play more strategic games you might be better at strategy or spatial relations or something like that. There are a bunch of benefits, but it's all great.
Question for the cons. Did you see any direct correlation between the murder? Was that solely because the video games are the counts of insanity or influence?
Yeah, their personality too, like people that are crazy, I guess, are more like lenient to play violent video games. And most of the, like mass murderers did tend to have like psychological problems. And
Very good, thank you. Behind, guys. Hey, guys.